Hey, good morning. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here with the 8th step in our 14 days to anything you want challenge, or our challenge to success. Again, I'm doing lose 7 pounds by January 7th, a particular date. Try not to put a particular date in things, but this is just a practice Facebook Live run, so I'm okay with doing that. Today I've got a super busy day, so I wanted to knock out this quick first thing in the morning before the sun's even up, so that you get a chance to find out and work on the 8th step. We're already on the 8th step along with me. And today is all about, yesterday was all about decisions and making a decision, actually deciding and committing to what you want and that you're going to achieve it no matter what. Today is about persistence. Persistence is the sustained effort necessary to create faith. The only way you can create faith and belief in what you want and what you're doing and what you're moving toward is if you are persistent and keep at it. If you quit at the first drop of a hat, you're less likely or very unlikely to achieve anything. Again, I've got my handy-dandy magnifying glass and my son-in-law's book, so I'm just going to read the highlights out of this chapter because I think they're so important, and they're as true today as they were when they were written in 1937. The basis of persistence is the power of your will. Willpower and desire, when properly combined, make an irresistible pair. So, if you add willpower to what it is that you want, you will achieve what it is that you're trying to achieve. For example, I need to apply willpower because I want to lose 7 pounds during this 14-day period. And the only way I'm going to do that is if I say no to caramel. Well, this time of year, there's a lot of cookies and caramels and sweets and yumminess around. And I need to call upon my personal willpower to make sure that I can say no to those things because I really don't need them. And I want my goal more than I want the instant gratification of the taste of caramel, although caramel is pretty delicious. The majority of people are ready to throw their aims and purposes overboard and give up at the first sign of opposition or misfortune. A few carry on despite all opposition until they attain their goal. So, how many hurdles or obstacles do you have to run into before you're going to quit? Before you're going to just give up on your goal or your dream or the goal you're trying to achieve during this 14-day period? Me, I would have to have an infinite number of obstacles because, believe me, already in the first 7 days of this, I have had some unbelievable things happen. And it's just like, really? 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 And then I just say next and keep moving toward what I want. And that's the mindset that you have to have. You have to be persistent. You have to know that things are going to come up, plans are going to be interrupted, and you're going to figure it out because you always do. I always figure it out, no matter what it is I'm trying to do. Obstacles and hurdles and things come up because that's called life. But I just keep on going because I know that there's always a way to get whatever it is I want to get done. And if I just keep plugging away at it, I will get there. And so will you. Lack of persistence is a weakness common to the majority of men. Women too. Sorry, women. It is a weakness which may be overcome by effort. The ease with which lack of persistence may be conquered will depend entirely upon the intensity of one's desire. Okay, that's really important. If I really didn't care about losing 7 pounds by the 7th, I wouldn't be persistent. I wouldn't pursue that goal, and I wouldn't do what it takes to make sure that that happens in my life. If I don't feel strongly about getting a better job, I'm not going to put forth any effort. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to be persistent to try and get another job. I will just continue to exist in the position that I'm in, and I will tell myself that that's good enough, and I will quit at the first opposition. So let's use the job example. If I am unhappy in my current position and I decide I want another job, I kind of want another job, but I'm pretty comfortable here. I don't have a very strong desire to get another job. I might be a little bit unhappy, but I'm not super motivated. Well, now if I hear my company has been sold to another company and I know that layoffs are imminent and that 50% of the workforce is going to be toast here in the next 6 months, now I may have a higher desire and a little more willingness to do whatever it takes and overcome obstacles that come my way with respect to finding another position, because I know that there's a pretty high probability that my position isn't going to exist any longer. So the stronger our desire, the easier it is to continue and overcome obstacles in whatever it is that we want to achieve. Weak desires bring weak results, just as a small amount of fire makes a small amount of heat. If you find yourself lacking in persistence, this weakness may be remedied by building a stronger fire under your desire. So basically light a fire under your own butt for what it is that you want, and that will help you to be more persistent and have more willpower with respect to achieving your goal and objective. The eagerness with which you follow these instructions will indicate clearly how much or how little you really desire to accumulate money or accumulate whatever you want. Again, the instructions are definiteness of purpose. Persistence is a state of mind, therefore it can be cultivated. So say you haven't been very persistent in your past. Now, some of us are bulldogs. I'm kind of a bulldog, and I'm pretty persistent. And when I decide I want to do something, I pretty much find a way of making it happen. And I don't remember ever not being that way. But if you find that you're not persistent, it's a state of mind. So you can create it, and you can cultivate and make yourself more persistent. And you can do it through these steps. Having a definiteness of purpose, knowing what you want first, and then making it the most important thing in your life will definitely help your persistence. Desire, self-reliance, definiteness of plans, accurate knowledge, cooperation, willpower, and habit. Are we starting to see a pattern here? These things are important to achieving anything that we want in our life. He goes on to share symptoms of the lack of persistence, and I'm just going to read through this list quickly because I think it's excellent. Ask yourself if you're seeing any of these symptoms in your life. And if you are, guess what? That means that you may need to work on persistence a little bit. We all have things that we want to work on and improve in our lives, and that's not a bad thing. Actually, that's a good thing. That means that we care and are enthusiastic and are wanting more in our life. So what are these signs and symptoms of lack of persistence, you ask? I shall tell you now. Number 1, failure to recognize and to clearly define exactly what one wants. How many times do we think we want something and then we change our mind right away and don't go for it because we're not really clear on exactly what it is that we want? I would say 90% or more of the population has no idea what they want, and they're just wandering through their lives without any sense of purpose or knowing what they want. Number 2, procrastination. Ooh, guilty of that. With or without cause, usually backed up with a formidable array of alibis and excuses. Woo-hoo, yeah, that's me. Number 3, lack of interest in acquiring specialized knowledge. If you're not interested in a topic that you need to learn more about to solve a particular problem or overcome an obstacle you're having, if you don't want to get that, that is probably a sign of your lack of persistence. Number 4, indecision, the habit of passing the buck on all occasions instead of facing issues squarely, also backed by alibis. Number 5, the habit of relying upon alibis instead of creating definite plans for the solution or the problems, or the solution of problems. Number 6, self-satisfaction. There is but little remedy for this affliction and no hope for those who suffer from it. So if you're already satisfied and you're just satisfied and you think everything's hunky-dory fine, guess what? There's nothing you're going to do about it. You're not going to change your persistence because you don't think you need to change. Number 7, indifference, usually reflected in one's readiness to compromise on all occasions rather than meet opposition and fight it. Basically, if you just don't care, then you're just going to compromise and you're not going to be very persistent. Number 8, the habit of blaming others for one's mistakes and accepting unfavorable circumstances as being unavoidable. Number 9, weakness of desire due to neglect in choice of motives that impel action. Number 10, willingness, even eagerness to quit at the first sign of defeat, based upon one or more of the 6 basic fears. Number 11, lack of organized plans placed in writing where they may be analyzed. Number 12, the habit of neglecting to move on ideas or to grasp opportunity when it presents itself. That is a huge one. We're afforded opportunity all the time, and if you're finding yourself not taking action when everything in your being is saying, move, 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 go, 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 do this, that is definitely a sign of lack of persistence. 13, wishing instead of willing. So wishing things would happen and hoping they'll happen, but not doing anything to make them happen is a sign of lack of persistence. 14, the habit of compromising with poverty instead of aiming at riches. General absence of ambition to be, do, or to own. Number 15, searching for all the shortcuts to riches, trying to get without giving, a fair equivalent, usually reflected in the habit of gambling, endeavoring to drive sharp bargains. And number 16, fear of criticism, failure to create plans and to put them into action because of what other people will think, do, or say. This enemy belongs at the head of the list because it generally exists in one's subconscious mind where its presence is not recognized. See the 6 basic fears in the later chapter. And the 6 basic fears we're going to discuss at length because there's a whole chapter on it. And it's so important. And to be honest, the 6 basic fears and the fears in our life are what actually drive us. We do more based on our fears than we ever do based on our desires and our motivation until we manage those fears and overcome them and actually wrangle them in and train them and train our mind and our subconscious that they're not real. Fears are not real. Our mind makes them real, but they aren't real. They're limitations that we place on ourselves to stop us from doing things that are in our own best interest because we're afraid. And again, there's a whole chapter on that. We're going to go into that in major detail. So, do you see yourself in any of these symptoms? And are you having any of these symptoms? And if you are, guess what? We're going to take care of them through the rest of this program. Over the next 6 days, we are going to make sure we knock them out of the park and out of your life. Spasmodic or occasional effort to apply the rules will be of no value to you. To get results, you must apply all of the rules until their application becomes a fixed habit with you. In no other way can you develop the necessary money consciousness or success consciousness or results consciousness, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is you're trying to achieve. For me, health consciousness. This goal for me during this trial period and challenge is a health-related goal. So I am trying to develop an absolutely amazing health consciousness, and that's my goal for this. Think and Grow Rich, of course, is based on developing a money consciousness, and it's all about making these 13 steps or 14 steps a habit and a natural part of your being and your thinking and your existence. Poverty is attracted to one whose mind is favorable to it, as money is attracted to him whose mind has been deliberately prepared to attract it, and through the same laws. Poverty consciousness will voluntarily seize the mind which is not occupied with money consciousness. And we've talked about that before too. Basically, our mind focuses on only one thing at a time. So if we are focusing on money and attracting money, if we are focusing on health and attracting health, the opposite can't be created in our life. Without persistence, you will be defeated even before you start. With persistence, you will win. So it's up to you. Are you going to adopt and create and add persistence to your repertoire of behaviors and thoughts and feelings, or are you going to be sabotaging yourself and giving up on your goals? I say let's go for it and win. There is no substitute for persistence. It cannot be supplanted by any other quality. Remember this, and it will hearten you in the beginning when the going may seem difficult and slow. Whenever we start something new, it's difficult and slow. None of us are born expert or masters at anything. We're all born babies, and we can, cry and be afraid of loud noises, and we depend on everything around us to create and to emphasize what it is that we're going to become in life. And then we get to choose. At some point, we get to start choosing and deciding and learning and growing, and as part of that absorption and becoming process. And with that, we get to acquire and be whatever it is what we want to be. So how do you develop persistence? Let's see what Napoleon Hill has to say about that. I am talking about Napoleon Hill. How to develop persistence. There are 4 simple steps which lead to the habit of persistence. They call for no great amount of intelligence, no particular amount of education, and but little effort and time. The necessary steps are: 1, a definite purpose backed by burning desire for its fulfillment. 2, a definite plan expressed in continuous action. So every day you're doing something to move you toward that definite purpose. 3, a mind closed tightly against all negative and discouraging influences, including negative suggestions of relatives, friends, and acquaintances. 4, a friendly alliance with one or more persons who will encourage one to follow through with both plans and purpose. Again, I think that we're hearing these things over and over and over again for a reason. Apparently my fingers aren't working this morning. Those who have cultivated the habit of persistence seem to enjoy insurance against failure. True. Every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. I know a lot of times we think that our failures are the worst thing, and at the time, trust me, when things happen and we have a failure, a setback, it often feels like the end of the world. But I will admit openly here that all of my failures in the past, I have learned way more from every single one of my failures than I've ever learned from my successes. The job interviews that I sucked at, the businesses that I made huge mistakes in, choosing the wrong business partners, all of these mistakes and all of these failures and all of these struggles have taught me way more than the times that I did choose the right opportunity, or that I did land the job on the first interview, or that I did nail the interview. I might have achieved what I was trying to achieve short-term faster, but I didn't really learn as much from that as I've ever learned from my failures. So as hard as it is to swallow when we have disappointments and failures, if we step back and look for the lesson and the learning and the opportunity in that, it's always a bigger lesson than we would have gotten by just succeeding in the first place or doing it right the first time. One thing we all know, if one does not possess persistence, one does not achieve noteworthy success in any calling. You know, there's a whole lot of mediocre people or averagely successful people in any endeavor in the world, but the people that achieve excellence and stand out and that are the true stars and the masters of anything, I mean, we all can think of the top people in any field. They're easily identifiable, and below them or along with them are thousands and thousands, if not tens of thousands or millions of people that are also good at the same thing, but not at the same level, because they're not persistent enough to decide that and choose that they will be the expert at that particular thing or in that particular field. Persistence is a state of mind, therefore it can be cultivated. I already said that, but it's worth repeating, because a lot of times we believe that, or I don't know why we believe that, but we falsely believe sometimes that we're either born some way or we're not, and that's complete and utter nonsense. None of us are born persistent. None of us are born brave. None of us are born fearless. We're not. We acquire those skills and acquire those talents and acquire those abilities through practice and experience and trial and error. Most ideas are stillborn and need the breath of life injected into them through definite plans and immediate action. The time to nurse an idea is at the time of its birth. What that's saying is, as soon as you get an idea, do something to put it in place. So often we have incredible ideas and opportunities and we don't act upon them. And if we don't do anything to act upon them, they die. They just fizzle away, and it's as if we never had that idea or thought. Riches do not respond to wishes. They respond only to definite plans backed by definite desires through constant persistence and moving toward the goal or desire. So that's it for today. Persistence. Again, ask yourself, am I persistent? Do I give up at the first sign of strife? Or am I going to achieve my goal no matter what? Well, I'm going to achieve my goal no matter what. Are you? I will see you tomorrow, because we've got a really exciting step coming up in step number 9. It's actually one of my favorite, and one I am continually working toward mastering, because I don't have that one mastered yet. Anyway, have an awesome day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.